live from the Ukrainian capital, a year into the invasion. What's the current situation on the ground?
That's right, Anna. A year ago, dawn this day, this entire city, the entire nation was awoken by sounds of explosions, of aircraft flying through the air. And the 1 year, I think, that of coverage of this, and we realize we lose sight of the shock of seeing those images of the Russian tanks crossing the border into Ukraine, the shock of the realization of a war in Europe, and that convoy that was making its way here to Ukraine, and the shock that Kyiv did not fall. As you take the train here from Warsaw to Kyiv, the last place you pass through is Bucha, where there was the massacre of civilians, and you realize how close the Russian military was to the seat of government here in Ukraine. But a year later, Kyiv still stands, Zelensky is still president, and Ukraine continues to fight at enormous cost. Hundreds of thousands of people have been wounded or killed in this conflict. 8 million people have been displaced. On this train, you see it's mostly women coming into Ukraine because the men were not allowed to leave. So the fear is 1 year in that this may be the first marker that this will be a protracted battle. But anyone you speak to in Ukraine, echoing the words of Zelensky, there is absolutely no backing down.
Ollie, good morning. We're 1 year into this war, as you say, and there's no backing down. So what's the path forward?
Exactly. The Ukrainians are in it for the long haul. This much is clear, but they cannot do it alone. You have $2 billion pledged additionally said to by the United States overnight. That adds to $27.5 billion from the United States. Zelensky is very conscious of the fact that the survival of this nation is dependent on that support continuing, and victory may be dependent on heavier weapons coming in. And so you have this plan out from China, this potential peace plan that we saw. It's a 12-point plan that includes a ceasefire, potential peace talks, elimination of sanctions, but it does nothing to deal with the main question of territorial integrity in Ukraine, preserving it. But we can take it perhaps as a positive symbol that China wants to be more of a neutral party rather than some of the fears that we heard earlier in the week from the U.S. that China would be providing active, lethal support to Russia.